Every who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot, but Alastair, who lived just north of Whoville, did not. Alastair hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now please don't ask why, no one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. "And they're hanging their stockings," he snarled with a sneer. "Tomorrow is Christmas! It's practically here!" Then he growled, and his Alastair... God damn it. Fuck. Whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour demon frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now hanging a mistletoe wreath. "And they're hanging their stockings," he snarled with a sneer. "Tomorrow is Christmas, it's practically here!" Then he growled, with his demon fingers nervously drumming, "I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming!" For tomorrow he knew all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys. And then, oh the noise, oh the noise, noise, noise! There's one thing he hated. The noise, noise, noise! Then the Whos, young and old, would sit down to a feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast, and they'd feast. Feast, feast, feast! They would feast on Who pudding, and rare Who roast beast, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together, with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing. Sing, sing, sing! And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmasing, the more the... Oh, I'm not the Grinch, I'm Alastair. Fuck. Oh. Which was something Alastair couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together, with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand, and the Whos would start singing. They'd sing, and they'd sing, and they'd sing. Sing, sing, sing! And the more Alastair thought of this Who Christmasing, the more Alastair thought, "I must stop this whole thing! Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how?" Then he got an idea. An awful idea. Alastair got a wonderful, awful idea. "I know just what to do," Alastair laughed in his throat. And quickly he made a Santa Claus hat and coat. And he chuckled and clucked, "What a great Alastair trick! With this coat and this hat I'll look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer." Alastair looked around, but since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old demon? No, Alastair simply said, "If I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead." So he called his dog Dean, and he took some red thread, and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags and some old empty sacks on a ramshackle sleigh. And he hitched up old Dean. Then Dean. Damn it. Then Dean. Doesn't rhyme at all. Then Alastair said, "Gidap!" Really? That's Gidap? Really? Okay. Then Alastair said, "Gidap!" and the sleigh started down towards the homes where the Whos lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark, quiet snow filled the air. All the Whos were all dreaming sweet dreams without care. When he came to the first little house on the square, "This is stop number 1, the old demon Claus hissed, and he climbed to the roof, empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney, a rather tight pinch. But if Santa could do it, so could the Grinch. Fuck. But if Santa could do it, so could Alastair. He got stuck only once, for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue. There the little Who stockings all hung in a row. "Those stockings," he grinned, "are the first things to go." Then he slivered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant, and the whole room around the whole room, and he took every present: pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums, and he stuffed them in bags. Then the demon very nimbly stuffed all the bags one by one up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that demon even took their last cans of Who hash. What the fuck is Who hash? Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. "And now," grinned Alastair, "I will stuff up the tree." Then the demon grabbed the tree and he started to shove, when he heard a small sound. When he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who, the little Ann. Damn it all. He turned around fast and he saw again. He turned around fast and he saw a small Who, that little Ann Buck. What the fuck's your last name? He turned around fast and he saw a small Who, the little pirate Ann, who was not more than 2 feet tall. The demon had been caught by this tiny Who daughter, who'd got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at Alastair and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" That's not the right accent. Oh man now. Oh man, what you doing there? Ann, pussy, fuck my pussy, oh man. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Why, Santa Claus, why?" This doesn't sound right. Oh, fuck it. Alright, Alastair's Ann now. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why? Why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But you know, that old Alastair was so smart and so slick. He thought up a lie, and he thought it up quick. Why indeed. "Why, my sweet little tot," the fake Santa Claus lied, "there's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there, then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head. He got her a drink and he sent her to bed. And then little Ann, Who went to bed with her cup. God, that sounds not good. He went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was too small even for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other Who's houses, leaving crumbs much too small for the other Who's mouses. It was 1/4 dawn, all the Who's still abed, all the Who's still a snooze, when he packed up his sled. Packed it up with their presents, the ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, and the tinsel, the trimmings, the trappings. 3,000 feet up the side of Mount Crumpet. Is that really? Up the side of Mount Hell. He rode with his load to the tip top to dump it. Pooh pooh to the whoos, he said. What the fuck? Pooh pooh to the whoos, he said, demonly humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open in a minute or two. Then the whoos down in Whoville will all cry boo-hoo. That's a noise, grinned Alastair, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear. And he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, the sound But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville, the Grinch. He stared down at Whoville. Alastair popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was buzzing towards them quickly in crimson robes and terrifying masks. It was the Inquisition, and now the story is over.